Mercedes-Benz had recently given the C-Class sedan a midlife makeover, and now it's given the C-Class Cabriolet a midlife update. In fact, we were in Germany to drive this car, and here's what we like about it.
It's a good day to be driving a Mercedes-Benz. I can tell you because I'm driving one and it's gotten me access to this, an owners club meet. Now, it's not just any owners club, it's owners of some of the most beautiful Mercedes-Benz cars ever built. The likes of the 123 series of Mercedes-Benz cars that debuted in 1976, or the 124 series that followed and gave birth to the E-Class bloodline. Or how about the 190E, which featured anti-roll bars and multi-link suspension and also had the option of a 2.3 or a 2.5 litre 16-valve engine from Cosworth that could produce well over 200 horses, which back in the 80s was a big deal. Having so many of these cars together, what a sight that is. It's like a little piece of heaven back here on Earth. And here on Earth, the weather is really wonderful. It's another good day to drive, which can be made better with a convertible. This is the new C-Class convertible. Like its sedan and coupe counterparts, even this got its midlife update earlier this year. That comprises of new multi-beam LED headlamps, a revised design for the tail lights, a few nips and tucks on the bumpers, and also the diamond grille, which is now a standard fitment. On the inside is a new 10.25-inch infotainment system with a new generation command infotainment software. There is a new digital instrumentation too, which can be controlled using new touch-sensitive switches on the steering wheel. The wheel also has switches for the new generation of adaptive cruise control systems, and this new placement makes them very intuitive to use. I had a chance to try it all out on one of the most beautiful roads in Germany. I so wish that back in India we were graced with such gorgeous skies, such lovely weather, to be able to enjoy a convertible like this. Now, I've said that there are a few moments through the year where the weather is just perfect to drop the top on the car and enjoy open top motoring. But really the best way to enjoy it is to come to a place like this, which has some of the best weather and the best roads to offer. I am in Germany. In fact, if you do happen to visit Germany, do take time out, do drive out here if you love cars, if you love driving. There are a few sections of the Autobahn which offer unparalleled experience of no speed limits on arrow straight roads. You can easily do over 200 kilometers an hour in a car like this, and let me tell you, the wind in your hair experience at 200 plus kilometers an hour is amazing. Now, this isn't a sports car, this is more of a lifestyle car. This is the C300 petrol. It was already present in India, and what I'm driving is the updated model. The engine still remains the same. It's a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, but now it puts out more power, more torque. More importantly, compared to the C300 petrol sedan that I drove a few months back, this one sounds so much better when you go pedal to the metal. The 2-litre engine, codenamed the M264, is Bharat State 6 compliant and puts out 258 PS of power and a healthy 370 Newton meters of torque. It claims to go from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.2 seconds, which is fairly quick. It is an eager motor and has a strong mid-range pull too, and the bassy soundtrack only makes it more exciting to drive. It is mated to a familiar 9-speed automatic transmission that is great for laid-back drives and highway cruising. For fun around twisties, the paddle shifters are the better bet. Speaking of twisties, the C300 Cabriolet is an enjoyable corner carver too. The Cabriolet sits closer to the ground compared to the sedan, and the hunkered down stance works well when you drive around the mountain roads. The glasshouse not only provides very good cornering visibility, but it is also designed to keep the wind noise low as the speeds rise. It does work well around mountain roads, but can get quite noisy at highway speeds. As a part of the updates, the C-Class convertible now also gets a full-color heads-up display, and it has readouts for the speed, of course, and for the navigation data, the speed limit, and also readouts for the information about all the various assistance systems that you get inside the car. However, to be able to read it with sunglasses on, you'll have to throw out your polarized sunglasses and go in for non-polarized ones. Ironic, isn't it? Not really. If the sun is harsh, you don't really want to drop the top on that car. It's just weather like this when you will enjoy the open top motoring. I'm sure not everyone will agree to that bit. To each his own, I guess. But I'm sure what we will all agree on is that open top motoring is a lot of fun. If you would rather enjoy it in a Mercedes-Benz, then the C-Class Cabriolet always was and still is one of the best cars to start with. And for a little over rupees 80 lakh, I think it's also priced quite well for the level of kit and exclusivity that it offers.
The Multistrada 1200S set a new benchmark in the adventure tourer category owing to its superbike equaling performance as well as its stunning handling. Now it's been given an update and it's been called the 1260S. It has more performance and is a much able handler. I will tell you more about it.
The 1260S is not a full model change but is more of a midlife update, so styling has not changed significantly. The full LED headlights look near identical and so does the beak-like nose, though side panels of the fairing are not exactly the same, even though they look similar to the 1200s. In effect, the Multistrada continues to look like a snarling beast thanks to the design of its headlamp unit and of course the snout that houses the radiator. I didn't exactly take a liking to a test bike's grey colour, but I have to admit the dull gold finish on the alloy wheels does add to the bike's appeal. An important addition is the new grab rail borrowed from the Multistrada Enduro and the Multistrada 950, which makes loading luggage easier. The overall stance hasn't changed, which means the Multistrada still looks like a large supermoto on stilts, especially with its 17-inch wheels, and that certainly adds a dash of sportiness to its appearance. At 158 PS, the 1260's output might sound like a modest 6 PS increment over the 1200, but more importantly, this engine is a lot smoother and also has a far wider torque spread throughout the rev range. So effectively, you have a stronger surge of torque right from 3500 RPM onwards, and when you keep the throttle pinned, this motorcycle has absolutely no trouble in plastering a wide grin across your face with its ridiculously quick acceleration. The XDival is known to boast a freight train-like torque delivery and its engine feels as punchy on the Multistrada 1260. Cross the 5000 RPM mark on the tachometer and all hell breaks loose with the Multistrada feeling no less than a projectile on two wheels. It can get to serious speeds in no time and covering long distances on this near 160 PS beast is a piece of cake. The Multistrada 1260 then is easily one of the most entertaining full-sized adventure tourers, especially on tarmac. A big addition to the 1260 is the inclusion of a bidirectional quick shifter which works precisely at all times. Well, on the rider aids and electronics front, Ducati has also revised the controls and the switch gear which make it friendlier to use, and that's besides the fact that there's a new, crisper looking instrument cluster which looks really nice. The colors of the TFT display are even brighter now, and the display offers more information than before, but the good thing is you can read it all on the go with utmost ease. Scrolling through menu options is easier now as well, though at times you do need to keep scrolling for longer. Accessing the preset suspension settings is a quicker affair too, thanks to dedicated switch on the left side of the handlebar. On the other hand, the quick shifter on the 1260S works flawlessly, which not only adds to comfort by reducing rider effort, but also makes it more fun to ride, especially when slamming down downshift furiously in the hills like you would on a sports bike. Riding modes are the same as before, which means you can choose from sport, touring, urban and enduro. The 1260S feels calmer and more settled as compared to the 1200S, which felt slightly edgier in comparison, and this makes for a more confident feel. In fact, it also gives you more time to think about what's happening and understanding how the bike is behaving, even when riding it ballistically. And a big reason behind that is the recalibrated semi-electronic suspension. Its semi-active suspension is the star of the 1260's show indeed, and not just when thrashing the bike on tarmac, but also when riding it off-road. The recalibration of the suspension has helped Ducati improve the bike's feel and feedback significantly, and while it is not exactly an off-road focused machine, the 1260S is always up for a little jaunt off tarmac. On tarmac, the 1260S feels more settled as compared to the 1200S as well. It has given up some of the sharpness the 1200S had, especially when entering corners, as the rake angle is now up by 1 degree and the swing arm is 56 mm longer, but the 1260S does feel more stable as compared to the 1200, thereby affording you the confidence to carry higher in-corner speeds. The Pirelli Scorpion Trail 2 tires on the 1260S also deserve a mention here for offering excellent grip levels, as do the Brembo M50 calipers that bite into 330mm discs and offer excellent braking performance. To sum it up, the Multistrada 1260 is not a full generation change over the 1200, but the changes to this motorcycle are so extensive, it almost feels like a brand new motorcycle. And that's thanks to the massive updates to the engine, the chassis, as also the electronics, which together make it an even more wholesome package and a lot more fun to ride. Pricing begins at 16 lakh rupees ex-showroom for the base 1260, but priced at 18 lakh rupees, the 1260S is a far better deal in my opinion, because this bike is a lot more fun to ride than the base version, and that's thanks to its semi-electronic suspension.
Ducati has also upgraded the Enduro version of the Multistrada for 2019, giving it the same set of updates as the road-going S. In fact, it gets a more powerful engine and a set of riding aids that makes it a lot more friendlier to ride, especially off-road. Abhay will tell you more.
Just like the road-going Multistrada 1260, cosmetic changes to the 1260 Enduro are minimal, which means the bike looks nearly identical except for the new graphics on the fuel tank. An important visual change is a crisper and brighter 5-inch TFT display that offers information in a clearer and better looking format. The biggest change, of course, is the new 1262cc V-twin engine, which offers a stonking 158 PS and 128 Nm, and just to let you know, that torque output is higher than several litre class superbikes. And Ducati tells us that 85% of the torque is available from just 4000 RPM onwards. There's a long list of additions on the ride aids front as well, though the most important ones in my opinion are the bidirectional quick shifter and the 6-axis IMU. The semi-active electronic suspension has been recalibrated as well, and Ducati claims ride quality and feedback to the rider are both vastly better than before. The 1260 Enduro also gets a host of mechanical changes, including lighter wheels, a lighter swing arm and oil sump, and a slightly longer trail, all of which benefit the bike's handling. The riding position has been revised as well, particularly in the interest of improving maneuverability when riding off-road. And off tarmac is where we rode the bike first.
I'm just back from riding this motorcycle off-road on some seriously hardcore trails, and what a rush. I have to say that this bike feels so friendly. It's really easy to forget that this is a full-sized 1260cc adventure tourer. It feels so capable, so friendly, and there's so much feedback that even if you're riding this off-road for the first time, you really can ride it hard and push as much as you can.
A lot of credit for the 1260 Enduro's friendliness off-road goes to its well-sorted electronics package, especially the semi-active suspension, 6-axis IMU, traction control system and ride-by-wire. Throttle response is extremely smooth, while traction control in Enduro mode allows you to spin the rear wheel a little before cutting the power down. More importantly, it does not cut the power abruptly, but it does it so smoothly when it senses that a slide is getting out of hand, which was particularly helpful on trickier surfaces. The smoothness of the throttle and traction control inspired a lot of confidence, in fact, especially on cold, damp soil and loose gravel. The suspension at both ends is highly communicative, and it was easy to gauge exactly how much the rear was sliding on loose gravel or what was happening at the front end on loose soil. Of course, the revised ergonomics are a help too. The handlebar is low while the tank panels have been revised now, which has made it easier to grip the tank with your thighs than standing up on the foot pegs. On tarmac, the 1260 Enduro felt surprisingly close to its road bias sibling, the Multistrada 1260S, and that's despite the Enduro's larger 19-inch front wheel and more off-road focused suspension setup. Damping from the electronic suspension in sport or touring mode is excellent as well, which added to the confident feel when leaning into corners. A lot of attention has been paid towards improving the bike's handling on tarmac, and my time in the 1260 Enduro saddle helped me confirm that this is an able tourer as well.
If you are somebody who likes transcontinental rides, this is a motorcycle you should definitely have on your shopping list. This bike is coming to India roughly around April 2019, and when it comes, it will be slightly more expensive as compared to the 1200 Enduro, but when it comes, this bike is definitely promising you a lot of fun.
India boasts of a fairly large community of classic car owners, and this community has a lot to celebrate because FHVI, the Federation of International Vintage Car Association, has recognized the FHVI, which is the Federation of Historic Vehicles of India, as one of their own. What this means, of course, is that there will be one governing body to take care of the various responsibilities and duties of various classic car clubs, the private owners, as well as the museums. Now, to celebrate this feat, these vintage cars have been driven all the way from Bangalore to Mysore. It's a big drive. Let's take a look. Over 50 participants gathered together on a sweltering morning at Bengaluru's Vidhan Soudha with the most remarkably well-maintained classic cars to flag off an inaugural drive to officially celebrate the formation of the Federation of Historic Vehicles of India. With a sense of pride and a combined love for a beautiful era gone by, the families and friends exchanged some quick pleasantries, clicked some photographs to record this monumentous event, and soak in the moment that promised to make great memories. To make the event even more grand, the Chief Minister of Karnataka, H.D. Kumaraswamy, flagged off every car to show his support for the classic car movement in India.
So far in India, the concept was more about individual small clubs in different corners, and every club was doing a wonderful job within their limited scope and areas. But for a long time it was felt, and as India as a country and with its various aspects growing and evolving, it was quite obvious that a larger body of a federation needs to be formed. That it was long said and done and accepted by all, it needs to be there. But somehow it was taking time because most of the clubs are quite distant and far apart in sense, not just geographically, but what they did in terms of activities. A federation would bring all these clubs together and take up causes which are common to all. Instead of each clubs and each member trying to contest and trying to fight their own small little battles, there were a lot of things which are common to everybody. So this federation will now be able to take up cause, not just problems, but also solutions that one club may have which may affect the other club which they are looking for.
We've been working towards the federation formation, which almost took a year, and finally it got fructified, through the FHVI approval last February. And today, this is the first ever international event the federation is having, or I would say any club in India is having an international event of this status, this standard. And we are very, very proud today to have Mr. Patrick Roulet, the president of FHVI, as part of the entourage. And we also have Mr. Peter Nobel, who has driven his car from England with his wife Susie. We have 26 friends coming from Sri Lanka and driving 10 cars over here. So totally 12 international participants. We have about 22 friends coming from all over India. All put together, we are restricted to 50 entries.
Having been a Sunday morning, we assumed the traffic would be light exiting the city. Sadly, that was not the case, and yet every driver and passenger was thoroughly enjoying the experience of letting these yesteryear cars take them on a road trip. Just sitting in these vintage cars has the power to transport you back in time, and it's easy to see what true luxury and regality actually means. The sense of wonder and awe at seeing so many classic cars of different brands driving through town was something that brought unbridled joy to most onlookers. Cell phones would just not stop clicking, most cars would slow down their pace to catch a closer look at the cars and try to get a peek at the make of the models. Through the course of the 150-kilometer drive from Bengaluru to Mysore, there were ample pit stops to let the passengers get some refreshments, exchange some drive tales, and head out until the next stop. Everyone was also kept busy with some fun guessing games on the way. Once into Mysore though, the reception from the heritage city was unbelievable.
There is enthusiasm amongst the masses and the people at large who would like to see what it was during the yesteryears. What type of cars would be plying the roads of India. And that is exactly what they come here for. Because the modern day vehicles do not really offer that kind of ambience, that kind of vehicular architecture. And these cars are so beautifully crafted. The type of designs that has gone into this kind of manufacture, like the Ford company, the Austin company, or even for that matter, the Jaguar. These are vehicles which were a heartthrob of many enthusiasts in the yesteryears as they are today.
While Mysore is famously known as a heritage city, the people living and visiting Mysore seem to be massively enjoying their role of playing host to the classic car rally in their part of town. The reception per car was simply astounding.
I've done many vintage car rallies, many over the years, and I have never seen this kind of response anywhere in India before. All over the country, but not like this. Maybe it's because Mysore is a heritage city and people understand it. Maybe it's holiday season and there's lots of pilgrims, but I've never seen this kind of reception before. It was fantastic.
I can't tell you how happy I am to have just seen the response yesterday. You had almost the entire city out on the streets. You had these kids from all over, the little children, everyone wanting to take a picture. There was a look of joy on every person you met. They were so excited seeing these old cars. It proved to me that there is a lot of potential for doing old car events in our country. These are cars that, you know, display the heritage of transport, where we have come, where the modern cars have developed from, the whole entire evolution of the automobile. And with people being so interested, I think the organizers should take encouragement from this and say we are going to do more events, do them in a better way, give people an opportunity to get up close with these cars. So a lot of potential here. I hope sponsors also recognize that there is a huge public interest in this and we should support this movement. I'd be really happy to see this go forward because what I saw on the streets of Mysore was beyond my imagination. Such public enthusiasm to see these cars, incredible.
We go on classic cars, parades, more cars than this, but they just, you know, they just take it for granted. We were just talking to each other on the phones and saying what is happening, it's overwhelming. We've never had that in our country. And the people were so humble, we were really moved by them.
The most magical moment of the drive though was the culmination at the majestic Mysore Palace, which was illuminated with over 100,000 bulbs. Normally, the palace is illuminated on Sundays, national holidays or during the festival of Dussehra, for which Mysore is famed. But this particular illumination was done to welcome the entourage of vintage cars and also glorify the evening with the elephants who are brought out during Dussehra festival to come out and pose with the cars. Definitely a moment etched in a memory for all present.
Mysore, I think, is a fantastic place. The palace was absolutely beyond everyone's imagination. And the interest the people, the public, general public seems to take in historic vehicle, I'm sure they are aware that it's a piece of the national heritage. And we'll all appreciate that.
While there was a lot of sightseeing involved and as much drive time as possible, the drivers also got a chance to put the cars through some fun gymkhana activity, which isn't something you'd normally associate with vintage cars. But boy, was it fun. This was truly an event that brought a smile to everyone's face.
The movement is burgeoning. There are more clubs coming about. clubs getting united in a federation, which I think is important when you have to talk to the political people, to make sure that our vehicles will be able to be used on the road of the future. That's very important. We try to develop the cultural element as well and pass on these vehicles to future generations.
I have attended quite a few of these vintage car shows, but I have to say that seeing these cars stationary at a show and actually experiencing these in motion on road is a completely different experience. I've also noticed that the age group, the interest has changed quite a bit. There have been a lot of youngsters who've taken a keen interest in these vintage cars. So here's more power to the FHVI to organize many more such interesting events.